Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the DropKick Podcast. He's a WWE producer / WWE veteran.
You're a 3-time WWE Tag Team Champion.
He's a former WWE Cruiserweight Champion. She's a broadcast personality, former member of the Nexus. He's a 4-time Emmy-winning TV host.
Canadian Wrestling Hall of Famer. She's an ACW Women's Champion, and she is the daughter of the late, great British Bulldog. Winner of WWE's Cruiserweight Classic.
TJ Black from Ring of Honor, TJP, aka TJ Perkins, Georgia Smith, Darren Young, Arnold, Ariel Blake,
Chris Van Vliet,
Wrestling Classic, aka Justin Dillon.
Please welcome Tyson Kidd, everybody. What is going on, you guys? Welcome to another edition of the DropKick Podcast. As you guys can see, Daniel is not with us today, but don't worry, I am here, and I got a special guest with us. Not Your Average Asian. If you guys don't know who this man is, he runs a very good podcast on Spotify and other platforms that will soon be coming to YouTube, so make sure you guys check that out. Follow him on Instagram and everything. Plug your stuff, man. Where can everybody find you?
All right, well, so with the podcast, like you said, by the way, thank you for the great introduction. Not Your Average Asian Podcast. Find it on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts. Leave a review if you want to. We have a variety of content you like. If you want to discuss political topics, from that to wrestling to personal development, entrepreneurship, it's all there. Got some pretty cool guests on there too. As for our Instagram, that's where you're gonna find most of the podcast clips. If I get everyone doesn't want to, sit down, maybe listen to an hour-long podcast right off the bat. So if you're looking for the clips, Rodion Kirkland is the Instagram, Rodion K1RKLAND. Find me there, DM me. You know what's up. Thank you to Vic and / the DropKick Podcast and the VP Show for having me on here. This is interesting because I haven't done a prediction in quite a while with wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. And just before we get straight into this predictions, we recorded the Not Your Average Asian podcast with the DropKick Podcast. We were on his show. That'll be coming out. Keep your guys' eyes out for that. If you guys want to learn about me and Daniel, you want a really good in-depth conversation, make sure you guys check that out.
Oh, yeah. And just a warning for the viewers, when that episode does drop, we do touch on some topics that may be a little sensitive and a little touchy, but don't worry. It's like I was actually explaining to Vic here, there's going to be a cut, which is about 20 to 40 minutes long, and then there's going to be the rest of the podcast, which can last anywhere from an hour and a half to sometimes 3 hours long. So if you just want to listen to the cut, that's completely fine, but I guess just a little bit of viewer discretion is advised in advance for that episode, because it's one of my favorite episodes I've done,
Yeah, absolutely. We go in depth on wrestling, movies, but then where it gets a bit sensitive is some political topics. So if you guys aren't really into that, or you guys, are a little bit more on the sensitive side, just viewer discretion is advised. So make sure you guys keep that lookout. But you guys can stay on here for this, because this is just some wrestling predictions. We got All Elite Wrestling All Out pay-per-view. By the time you guys are probably seeing this podcast, the show is tonight. And they are gonna nail it, because I like the card. I think it's looking pretty good here. Dude, I recorded like 3 predictions because I had my own for my YouTube channel. I was on the Angle Radio, and now I'm here for the DropKick Podcast. But this is going to be a great show. What are you thinking of All Out? What are you thinking of the match card, man?
This match card, honestly, AEW lately with their pay-per-views and just what they've been doing, they've been consistent with the good, wrestling. Their content, what they're putting out there is just, phenomenal right now. And we were just talking about how we can see that with how WWE has had to change up their style recently, for lack of better words. For this card, it's interesting, but I can tell it's going to be good. We have all these wrestlers on here, both men and women wrestlers are phenomenal athletes. They know what they're doing. Most of them, honestly, are veterans in the game at this point. If not, then they've been in for quite a while. So, it's what AEW does.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a good show. A lot of deep storytelling matches in here, then a lot of matches that got added towards the end, but nonetheless, it's going to be a very good action-packed night of pro wrestling. We'll start things off with the buy-in, aka AEW's pre-show. Things are kicking off with Britt Baker versus Big Swole in the women's division. Now, for me personally, I'm not saying AEW has a bad women's division, but I do think in comparison to the tag team division and the world championship division, um, I think that it could use a little bit more work. But I do think out of everything that they've been doing for the women, Britt Baker and Big Swole's feud has stood out in a way. And they're calling this a tooth and nail match, which I don't know necessarily what that means, but I know Britt Baker has her whole doctor gimmick. So right off the bat, for my prediction, I'm going to predict Britt Baker to take this win.
I mean, yeah, tooth and nail. That's interesting. That immediately makes me think: is this going to be like some sort of match type, like how they have the no disqualification? How I know this is getting like way into it, but that mimosa match that Jericho and Orange Cassidy are going to have, which I have my thoughts on. I mean, yeah, with the women's division with AEW, I want to say right now, it's kind of eye to eye. Actually, no, I'll say it's a little bit above the WWE's women's division right now. But I agree with you. Britt Baker's taking this win.
Yeah, I definitely see that happening. Big Swole's a good face, but tooth and nail match, I got to go with Britt Baker. Next, we got the Young Bucks taking on the Jurassic Express, Luchasaurus, and Jungle Boy Jack Perry. I think the Young Bucks are going to take this victory. I think it'll be a good match. I won't have a problem if Jurassic Express takes this win, but I honestly thought the Young Bucks were going to be the first or second AEW World Tag Team Champions, and the fact that they aren't just makes me think, in a way, if I could make a comparison here, which I did on my own show, to John Cena. I'm not saying they're on the level of stardom as John Cena by any means, but I'm saying in AEW, they're a very prestigious tag team. They're kind of like the Cena of the tag team division. And when Cena went part-time, he put over AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, Kevin Owens, all these people. I'm like, this is great, but also the more people he lost to clean, the more it felt less prestigious to defeat John Cena in a way. Because if you remember back in the day, if someone would get a clean victory over John Cena, that would be insane.
It was like the most shocking thing in wrestling at the moment. Everyone would be like, "What the fuck?" No one ran in. The referee didn't get knocked out.
Like clean in the middle of the ring, John Cena lost.
With Kevin Owens being like that first prime example, which I still love that match because that brought me down to like my knees. I remember watching it just being like, holy shit, that actually happened?
Exactly.
You
won?
And
I felt the same way when AJ Styles beat him at SummerSlam. But by the time it came, which I believe the last guy to do it was Roman Reigns, at that point, it was like we had seen it happen a few times within the last few years where it felt like, okay, it's just another guy beating John Cena. And if the Jurassic Express gets this win here, it'll help them, but it'll feel similar to me, whereas Jurassic Express is just a young tag team beating the Young Bucks. See, I had that shock factor. I believe it was the first or second episode of AEW Dynamite on TNT, if you watched it. The Young Bucks lost clean in the middle of the ring to Private Party, and that felt huge. I thought the Bucks were going to be the tag team champions by now, but it didn't necessarily happen. So I feel like this is kind of a similar situation where, yes, it'll feel prestigious if Jurassic Express defeats the Bucks, but if the Bucks continue to put over these young teams over and over and over, we're going to lose that shock value that they have.
Yeah, I mean, the main reason, and a lot of my predictions, just so the audience knows, is really just based on so I've been watching wrestling for like 10 years now, and you just pick up on patterns that happen throughout the industry, and it doesn't really matter which type of brand you're watching, whether you're watching WWE, AEW, even Impact Wrestling. You pick up on patterns and you can just carry that over, and that's what I do a lot with the predictions, which is why I agree that the Young Bucks are going to win. It's because of how prestige they are. I still think, but I do think that even if they do win, they can get Jurassic Express over because they're a great tag team, and part of being a great tag team just in wrestling means you have to make the other tag team look good in a way. Not saying that Jurassic Express isn't good, but you have to understand just the level of, I don't want to say hierarchy, but just the level of like where these two are at. I mean, Young Bucks are like, they're really well known in the wrestling industry right now with their history in the indie scene and, coming to AEW. So, I mean, like, it may not be the most, I guess, authentic reasoning, but I do see the Young Bucks winning just based off of their prestige, but I don't see this being like just a boring match. Like if you would have taken like fucking, like, for example, back at the time, if you would have taken like Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder when they were basically both jobbers and put them up against like Sheamus and Cesaro when they were still a team, I don't see it like being like a squash match or anything like just not shocking. I definitely see these two teams putting on a good show, and I trust the Young Bucks are gonna still make these guys look really good. That like,
oh, definitely.
Even if they win, it's not going to be the biggest highlight of the match,
It'll be similar to when Jon Moxley defended the world title against Darby Allen a few weeks ago. They had a great match. Moxley got the win, but Darby Allen just felt like such a star at the end because he took him to the limit, and it's like similar. You see these kind of stuff in movies, like in the first Rocky movie. Rocky didn't win. But he went the limit with Apollo Creed, which is insane for a fighter of his caliber. And I think that's like similar to a lot of situations in wrestling, similar to this situation. So I'll agree with you. The Young Bucks are going to take this win, but Jurassic Express will look very good.
Jurassic Express is going to get a good push in this. They will.
Definitely. Next up, we have Matt Hardy versus Sammy Guevara. Now, this feud was already happening, but it caught intensity when Sammy Guevara had botched a chair shot to Matt Hardy. So basically, he had thrown the chair. I don't know if you saw this, but it hit Hardy directly in the eye.
Yeah, Hardy got busted open pretty badly.
Yeah, like really bad.
And on like live TV. So
yeah, it was crazy. And I feel like that added intensity to the feud. And something that AEW has done so well is they take situations like this, the real life situations, and they put it in the feud. They had Matt Hardy say, "You busted my head open with a chair." They had Hardy put Guevara through a table. They basically inserted violence, a lot of violence, because Sammy Guevara did defeat Matt Hardy in a tables match a few weeks ago on Dynamite. They're 1-1 because Matt Hardy defeated him in a regular match. And I feel like that botch is where, similar in a lot of situations in wrestling, a botch makes a feud or a match feel a lot more important.
A botch can honestly, like, sorry to interrupt, but a botch like in a match in wrestling can it can really make or break a storyline or make or break a match. Like honestly, all it takes is one mess up, a really bad botch for the crowd to like kind of for you to lose the flow in a match, because like that's gonna stand out above anything else. And if you're a good wrestler, you can work around that botch and make it work for you.
Exactly.
And
then
it's hard to do that.
there's a few situations where it helps. But I feel like this was a situation where it helps, because we've seen it. Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar. WrestleMania 19. Brock botches a shooting star press, lands directly on his head. That helped the match because people were like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? Like, is Brock okay? Is he going to be fine? Can he beat Kurt Angle now? Or a more relevant time would be John Cena breaking his nose against Seth Rollins.
Because he fought through that shit.
Yeah, he fought through that. That made Cena look great, and that made Seth Rollins look like a giant heel. And I feel like this is a similar situation, because now Matt Hardy has something bigger to fight for, and Sammy Guevara looks like more of a douchebag, which he's supposed to, because he's a heel. Now, I would personally book Sammy Guevara to win this match, but it is a broken rules match, and Matt Hardy has his broken gimmick. So I'm going to predict Matt Hardy to win this.
This is one I'm a little bit torn on, because I see either one winning, but for two very different reasons. if I see Sammy Guevara winning, I would have to, we kind of, I guess, have to get a little bit more into the podcast, but because it kind of relates to my other predictions and just how I see, because, we still kind of have this inner circle thing going on, even though it hasn't been as much of a center of focus for some time, but we still know the relationship between Jericho and Sammy and, Hager, all the other guys is still there. So that kind of leads into my other predictions, because, God, I don't know how to say this without giving away my predictions. I think it's just going to be like, depending on who wins for the rest of the night, this may be more of a something that I'm just going to have to toss up in the air, because the way I see it, depending on who wins or who I predict will win is really determining this match outcome just for like the imagery for the inner circle. Because, for example, let's say Jericho loses, I don't think at that point they would have Sammy lose because I don't think that would be a good decision on AEW, because then it's like, okay, you've had two of these big members from the inner circle lose. Is the inner circle now like looking weak? But then again, if Jericho wins, then it's like, okay, well, we could probably afford Sammy to lose,
Yeah.
But also with Matt winning, it's like it is a broken rules match, and it's like, I mean, that's literally in Matt Hardy's like persona, basically. It's like home field advantage for him to win this match. So it's kind of a toss up with me, man. It's really just based off of how I see the rest of the night going. I mean, if I were to say one right now, I'm just going to go with Sammy, because for the future predictions, which I'll mention the further we get into this. So,
all right, yeah, I could definitely see it being Sammy as well, but I don't know. It's a toss up. It is definitely a toss up. Next up is the Dark Order versus Matt Cardona, which is Zack Ryder, for those of you who don't know, who just debuted in AEW. Scorpio Sky and the Natural Nightmares, Dustin Rhodes and QT Marshall. This one's is pretty easy for me to predict. I'm going to predict the Dark Order, but I do think Matt Cardona, since he's newer, he's going to have a good showing in the match and stand out. But I do see the Dark Order winning this.
Yeah, this was one I took some time to think about, because I was thinking originally, okay, Matt Cardona, aka Zack Ryder, like this man, like really, like basically just made his debut. Honestly, like in a nutshell, he just made his debut. To have like his first like big pay-per-view match be a loss is like something I don't commonly see in wrestling anymore. But at the same time, with Brody Lee literally demolishing Cody Rhodes, and the Dark Order being, this big unstoppable like faction right now, it's like, if they were to lose this match, you would like wait I feel like a good amount of that momentum that they are carrying right now in AEW would be lost. And with a lot of people knowing who Matt Cardona is, it's like he can probably afford to lose like this one match for the time being, because he'll still be relevant in AEW regardless. Yeah. And he can still carry his potential. So the Dark Order, because of literally what happened to Cody Rhodes, it's like they've been dominating. Brody Lee has won the TNT title. It's like, yeah, Dark Order wins this.
Yeah, I agree. And not to mention, Matt Cardona doesn't have to eat the pinfall. It could be Scorpio Sky eating the pin. It could be Dustin Rhodes or QT Marshall. So I'm going with the Dark Order as well. Next up is the 21-man Casino Battle Royal. The winner gets a World Championship opportunity. Now, a few of the contestants you have Darby Allen, who Mox recently defeated, but probably in the best title defense of his reign. Brian Cage, who Mox barely scraped by, along with Brody. No, Brody Lee's not in there. Lance Archer.
Yeah.
Now, in New Japan Pro Wrestling in January, Jon Moxley defeated him. So if Moxley retains, that could be something they could be looking for. Other people are like Sean Spears, Jake Hager from the Inner Circle. Basically, the roster that isn't on the main card is most likely going to be in the Battle Royal.
Definitely.
Now, in my favorite world, just because I'm a huge Sean Spears fan, I would love to see him win. And go
He's
on and
still
win
making an
the title.
uprising, though, I feel like. And I feel like this would be done, if he won, it would just be done way too fast, honestly. You know?
Yeah, that's true. I feel like it was just last year. I love Cody Rhodes and Shawn Spears, but I do think last year Cody should have given that victory to Shawn Spears, because I feel like then, by the time this year rolled around, it would have made sense for him to win this. So as for my prediction, I'm going to predict Lance Archer as much as I'd want Shawn Spears to win, just because the New Japan history. We haven't seen Lance Archer since that loss to Cody Rhodes, but that's the only blemish on his record. I believe his record is above 10-0 or 10-1, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I just see it being Lance Archer, either to face Moxley in the rematch or face MJF, because you don't know who's winning the world title match.
Yeah, we don't know yet. I'm actually going to go with Jake on this one. And the reason I say this is because I feel like if Jake wins, if they, once again, we don't know who's going to win. If he wins, that's going to kind of carry over a little bit into this inner circle stuff. And if Jericho, let's say Jericho loses against Orange Cassidy, and just with seeing how the inner circle hasn't been like as big of a focus lately, like obviously the individuals of the faction are still like on the main card and everything, but with them not being as big of a center of focus, that could, I guess, hint at some sort of division that may come through. And I think if Jake wins this Casino Battle Royal and he gets that title opportunity, it's gonna, maybe that'll play a little bit into like a little bit of some, I guess, a little bit of a feud or some tension in the inner circle, because just storyline wise, it's like if someone gets we've seen it so many times, if someone gets an opportunity for a title shot and they are in a faction, they're gonna more than likely like take it, and that usually splits a faction up in the end. But I think Jake may actually is gonna win that. I think it would be interesting to see him win. With Darby, with his last match against Moxley, I still think there's going to be some time before like they really get him going again with something major. But then again, your prediction for Lance could easily be true, with his history. And Shawn Spears, like I explained, he's kind of still, I think, making an uprising right now a little bit, still promoting himself in AEW before. Yeah. He seems to be kind of like is on like a little individual path, like kind of how like Mojo Rawley was, like even though that didn't work out in WWE, but how like some guys take their own individual path for themselves, and they slowly will eventually like get into bigger storylines and everything.
Yeah,
but I think Jake actually has a good chance at winning this.
All right, so you're going with Jake Hager. I'm going with Lance Archer for the 20-man Casino Battle Royal. Next up is interesting, and I have a little bit of things I want to talk about about the feud and this rubber match. Chris Jericho is taking on Orange Cassidy in a Mimosa Mayhem match. Now, here's the deal. When you hear a Mimosa Mayhem match, you're going to assume it's going to be a comedic match. And with someone funny like Jericho and Orange Cassidy, I'm sure that'd be funny. It's just... The thing about their feud, which I liked about at first, was Jericho is forcing a more serious side out of Orange Cassidy, because you saw the promo before their first match where Jericho won. Chris Jericho said, "Listen, I'm a veteran of this business. You try that hands in your pocket shit with me, I'm going to knock you on your ass." And in both their matches, the only time Cassidy would ever do it wasn't to taunt Jericho. It was so Jericho would just freak out, go for him, and then he could just go for a move. Obviously, I'm not saying Orange Cassidy's a world championship contender with the current gimmick he has. I think we could see a somewhat serious side of him here and there, like a top mid-carder kind of deal. But and he got the win over Jericho. They're 1-1. I just feel like I wanted to see an even more serious side of him right here. Like maybe if they made this match a steel cage match, I would have liked it more. But regardless, I'm sure I'm going to be entertained. Chris Jericho doesn't fail to impress me ever. One of my favorites of all time. just because it's a Mimosa Mayhem match, whatever that is, I'm gonna predict Orange Cassidy to take this victory.
Yeah, this is a match I was looking at, and I was just like, I don't see Jericho winning this because he's brought out the more serious side in Orange Cassidy. You have a Mimosa Mayhem match where literally you have to get thrown into this vat of champagne and orange juice, basically mixed together. So, I'm pretty sure that's what Mimosa is.
Yeah, I
but
think so.
I see even like Jericho, like if he lost, that loss would just work much better with how he is as a wrestler, because he is a heel, but he can make anything work, like we've explained in the past.
Yeah.
A list, a scarf, a plant named Mitch. He can make it work. So like if he loses and gets thrown into this vat of mimosa, it's like I just
fine.
Yeah, I that's not going to hurt his image, in my opinion, as if it were to happen with Orange Cassidy, who has been a much more serious contender right now in AEW. You know, you're making him serious, but then if they were to throw him into a like Mimosa, I feel like that would just hurt his image as a wrestler.
Yeah. Whereas Jericho's just been around for decades on top. He knows how to be goofy. Like the guy, you could have Hornswoggle debut for AEW, beat Jericho in 5 seconds, and Jericho would still feel like a top contending star. It's crazy. And yeah, I feel like Cassidy should take this as well. I once again, steel cage match would have been better, but who knows? They're probably going to impress us. It's just even this week, it felt so serious. Like Jericho busted open Joey Janela. He had Orange Cassidy's shirt on, which a giant Orange Cassidy face, and he wiped the blood all over Cassidy's face. Like that was so symbolic. Cassidy runs in the ring, starts beating on Jericho. Jericho rolls out. He takes out Jericho's bubbly, pours it in the ring. Maybe this will be a lot more serious than we're expecting, but as of right now, when you hear Mimosa Mayhem match, it sounds more comedic.
It's that Mimosa the Mimosa Mayhem like stipulation that's like really kind of deciding my prediction on this match, you know?
Exactly. Same here. So we both have Orange Cassidy winning the Mimosa Mayhem match with Chris Jericho. Next up, we have AEW Women's World Championship on the line as Hikaru Shida defends against Thunder Rosa, who is actually the NWA Women's Champion.
Who made her debut, very, very, very recent.
Really recently.
And this match is like, this is like a last-minute ad, basically. Thunder made her debut. She wins. She makes a quick promo video calling out Shida. Match gets put on the card, basically.
Basically.
Kind of how this broke down.
And now, here's the deal. I feel like AEW's women's division, I feel like they need this Thunder Rosa victory in a way, because while they have some good wrestling, where WWE's women's division has an advantage over AEW's is that they have like Sasha Banks, Bayley, Becky Lynch, all these people, they're well known, whereas while AEW has some really good women's wrestlers, they're not as well known. And I feel like to make a huge star, if you have someone come in this quick with one title on their shoulder and win the AEW one and hold them both high up, it'll give them, I feel like it'll cement Thunder Rosa, and a lot of people will hear some buzz about her. But I do predict Hikaru Shida to win, because literally just because of this fact, if Hikaru Shida wins, she doesn't get Thunder Rosa's NWA World title. And I feel like what other reason would there be for it not to be winner take all, other than someone keeping their championship? So I predict Hikaru Shida, as much as I want Thunder Rosa to win.
I predict Shida too, even though I think that would be, it's insane if you would have Thunder Rosa like lose, but here's how I think it could happen. If you don't want to hurt either of the wrestlers like image, because like if you literally had Thunder like lose this match clean, it's like that seems to, just once again, like I said, stop momentum. She made her debut. She wins in a pretty good fashion. She calls out Shida, but then you're going to have her lose cleanly. I don't think that'd be smart. But I do think Shida will win just to keep that title for now. but I think she's gonna win from like disqualification, possibly. You know, like Thunder may do something that's gonna end up in disqualification. They get into a fight, continue the feud into the next upcoming weeks with AEW until their next pay-per-view. I think if that were to happen, and I think that's I think that I actually do think that that will happen, because I don't think AEW would like have either of these two women's wrestlers just lose completely clean,
Yeah.
So that's my prediction with that. So basically, Shida wins, but through disqualification.
All right. Yeah. So I'm predicting a clean Hikaru Shida win. You're predicting a Hikaru Shida win due to disqualification. Next up, the AEW World Tag Team Championships are on the line as Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page defend against FTR. For those of you new to AEW, that is the revival from WWE.
Dash and Dawson also.
Yes.
At the time.
Yeah. So this match is going to be really good, and I feel like it's been hyped up. So many people have been waiting for FTR versus the Young Bucks, but I feel like we needed this, and I feel like, well, first of all, I'm predicting FTR to win. That way, when the time comes, the Young Bucks can take the titles off them in their hyped up match. People have been waiting for it for years. Now, my deal here is what intrigues me the most about this is that a few weeks ago on Dynamite, Hangman Page costed the Young Bucks a shot at the titles. And
then he got kicked out.
Yeah, then he got kicked out of the Elite. They said, "You're a drunk," threw his drink in his face and kicked him out. And that's been building up since like February. It's like my heart was like pounding when that happened. I was like, "Oh my God, it actually happened." Now, I thought they were going to say FTR influenced him too and Hangman would turn heel. But FTR said this week that they didn't. And Kenny Omega said nothing. So what I'm thinking here, and what I hope is happening, is Kenny Omega influenced Hangman Page, and Kenny Omega will be the one out of the two to turn heel. Now, Kenny Omega is amazing. He's done so much great New Japan work. Him and Jon Moxley absolutely killed it last November, and in my opinion, had match of the year. I just think Kenny Omega, ever since winning these tag titles, they've had amazing matches, but Kenny Omega as a face has been getting a bit stale, and I feel like we've seen him be an amazing heel in New Japan, and Kenny Omega bringing back his cleaner gimmick as a heel would be much better, and that way, Hangman Page, I'm sure he'd be a good heel, but this guy's just so over with the crowd. Everybody loves him. He comes out drinking people's beers, making everybody happy. He's such an underdog of the Elite group, so I do predict FTR to win. I'm just hoping Kenny Omega attacks Hangman after, rather than Hangman attacking Kenny.
See, very similar prediction. Just switch who attacks who with Kenny and Hangman, because Hangman costing the Young Bucks a title shot, getting the drink thrown in his face, getting kicked out of the Elite, and we even saw like his tension between Kenny this Wednesday, or I guess I can say more last Wednesday, depending on how you see it. He walks in after FTR is, getting into this, like, I guess kind of like this yelling match with Kenny Omega, and, Adam Page, like, didn't say anything. He was just mad and, like, upset, and, like, you even saw the tension between Kenny and Adam, like, happen in the center of that ring. So I think there's going to be an implosion period between Kenny and Adam, which is going to cost them the titles to FTR. Kenny and Adam have had these titles for quite some time. FTR, I think they have been in just from their status in NXT into WWE, and just how big they are, and they've been into AEW for I think about 3 months now. This would be a great time for them to win the titles. I just think there's going to be an implosion, but I think Hangman will actually turn heel, or maybe no one will turn heel, and there will just be miscommunication and they lose.
That's true. I could see it going both ways. So, without a doubt, we both predict FTR to win the World Tag Team Championships here. We just not sure who's turning on who quite yet.
Yeah.
Now, finally, the main event, the AEW World Championship, is on the line as Jon Moxley defends against MJF. Now, this match is pretty unpredictable for me in a way. At first, I thought MJF is going to win for sure. But you know what? Jon Moxley's title run has been very entertaining, and the AEW ratings have been fairly high with him as champion. He's seen some great matches. I personally liked his match with Jake Hager, but there was at that time there's absolutely no audience, so I can understand some people didn't. But the match with Brody Lee at Double or Nothing was phenomenal. Just he had an amazing old school style match with Brian Cage. Then once again, him and Darby Allen put on one of the best matches of the year. One of my favorite matches that Dynamite has shown overall. And I'm just a Jon Moxley mark. I'm going to admit it. He's my favorite right now. I think, in my opinion, when you combine everything a wrestler should be, like in-ring skills, personality, charisma, talking, I just think he's the full package. One of, if not the best in the world right now. And it would just hurt me too much I like MJF, but it hurt me too much to predict MJF. So I'm going to predict Jon Moxley. And a lot of people, before we get into your prediction, just a reminder for the people watching, the paradigm shift is banned in this match. So a lot of people are betting towards MJF. I'm just thinking he didn't beat Brody Lee with the paradigm shift. He choked him out.
Moxley will find a way.
Yeah.
He can find a way, you know?
He literally said, you're just forcing me to get more creative. He didn't use the paradigm shift on Brian Cage. He had Taz throw in the towel. So what are you thinking?
Man, I mean, I would not be surprised if MJF or Moxley, it's funny, I almost said Ambrose, if Moxley or MJF win, whichever of them wins, I won't be exactly shocked. I'm going to lean towards Moxley. I think they're going to continue his title run a little bit longer. And it's more because of how I'm seeing MJF right now. He's been on the singles run, and he's a great heel. But he's in this position right now where he's a heel, but he's kind of the, how do I say it? Like kind of the cowardice, like arrogant trash talk, like kind of vibe. And I feel like if he's going to be champion, it would be way better if he was just more intense. And I'm not saying he's like not intense already. I mean, he fucked up Moxley, you know.
He just fucked him up on Dynamite
just this past Wednesday. But like, I think he needs to develop his heel run a little bit more, because he's kind of that guy, like when he called out Moxley and Moxley actually like music started playing, he was like, oh shit, like he's actually like coming, you know. And he has his I'm blanking out, he has his guy with him, I'm blanking out, Warlow, yeah, with him. I think, and you know, it's that classic kind of heel like way of being, like kind of that little bit of that all talk no bite kind of deal, kind of like how Seth Rollins was with like the Authority. You know, I feel like he's really in that position right now, just without a title of some sort. So I'm gonna go with Moxley, only because though of how MJF's heel character currently, where the state of his character is right now.
Exactly. And a lot of people are saying, oh, MJF. I like MJF. He's a great heel. I'm just saying, even if Moxley wins, which I know some of MJF's like huge fans are going to be angry, the guy's 24 years old. He's gold. He's gold already. You think he's not going to win a world championship down the road? He's gonna eventually. So yeah, I don't see him making it past Moxley now. I don't know. I just can't envision it. I can envision it.
I can envision it. I just don't think AEW would make that decision right now for him to get the gold. With just, like I said, once again, with where his character currently is, you know?
Also, another thing, these guys are both undefeated in singles competition in AEW.
Right.
That's another thing. So, like, obviously, like, we can envision them both holding the championship, but it's like, I can't envision watching Jon Moxley's leg hooked 1, 2, 3. I can't even envision MJF's leg being hooked 1, 2, 3, just because we haven't seen it happen yet, and it's going to be very interesting.
If MJF wins, I can't envision it being a clean win. I'll say that.
Oh no fucking way! That's not happening.
If he's gonna hook John's leg for 1, 2, 3, it's not gonna be a clean victory. I'll bet money on that. You know.
Yeah, there's no way. But yeah, so we're both going with Jon Moxley for this match. Hope you guys enjoyed our predictions. Let us know what you guys think down in the comments below. All Out is tonight. It's looking like a great show. We're both very excited for it. Any last words about this show?
AEW is going to deliver again. They've been delivering, with the past pay-per-views, with, their Wednesday night show. So they're going to deliver, No exceptions. Once again, I do think this card is a little bit interesting, but I still think it's going to be good. And yeah, I mean, thanks for having me on. I enjoyed this prediction podcast thing. It was really fun to talk about wrestling because I've tried my best to keep myself updated with like everything going on in wrestling right now. So
yeah, absolutely, man. We'd love to have you on again. Maybe this next time we can get all three of us, me, you, and Daniel, in here. It'd be a lot of fun. So
definitely
make sure you guys all click that like button, subscribe, comment. If this is on Spotify, make sure you guys give it a good download. Thank you so much for watching. Any last minute words? Where can everybody find you on social media? One more time for the people who don't want to scroll to the
one more time. So for my podcast, the Not Your Average Asian podcast, it's out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, even Google Podcasts. Like honestly, wherever you get your podcast, the Not Your Average Asian podcast is on there. Once again, be on the lookout. If you are subscribed to the VP show, which if you aren't, I don't know what you're doing with your life. You should subscribe because just for a little plug-in for the VP show and the Dropkick podcast, you guys have gotten some pretty big stars on. Darren Young, Tyson Kidd, Gabriel. So go check it out. Great interviews. But there is a podcast episode that's in development right now with the Dropkick podcast and myself. So be on the lookout for that. And for social media, Rodion Kirkland once again for the Instagram, that's RODION K1RKLAND. Also, feel free to follow me on TikTok too, Not Your Average Asian.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you everybody for watching. Hope you guys all have a great day. I hope you guys all enjoy the show. Thank you very much.
Woo.